Top of the morning, top of the morning, top of the morning. I am at long last getting to this rapid fire riff video that I put the call out for on my Patreon almost 2 full months ago. My apologies. It's been a horrendously busy couple months. Got the teaching, got the just turned in a dissertation chapter, got all sorts of conference proposals, all that stuff. But I am finally going to get back to this. So the I only got three requests for this, and I imagine it might have been buried for some people, but I'm I'm gonna take the easy day and just do three for this, and then I'll put out a new call for all my new patrons that I've gotten since then, because this is pretty much the only perk you get out of being my patron. I don't know why I keep saying patron. It's just patron, right? Patreon supporter. I've also gotten worse and worse at talking as I've gotten older, so we'll see what happens. So the first one for this is this riff from the new Kyo album, which, as was revealed after this riff was requested, was one of my favorite albums of 2021. And this is my favorite type of question because it's just a straightforward rhythmic puzzle, although it's going to be one of the trickier ones, I think. So the question is about the necklace, and specifically about what's going on with the drums and the rhythm in the first few minutes. They mentioned specifically this 2:30 to 3 minute mark. I think I'm gonna start from the beginning because I want to try and find some clues. Let's just listen for a little bit and see if anything jumps out. And I know this song a little bit, but yeah. So the tricky thing is kind of clear. It's like what's going on with these snare hits. At first listen, I don't hear any obvious short repeating pattern. There's a clear pulse, a clear tactus, right? There's a clear beat, but the question is like what's going on metrically? How are we grouping those beats? And the first instinct would be to think, just like by default, well, is this some sort of like trippy 4/4? I don't think it is, because if we start from the beginning and we count until the synth comes in, it is not a number of beats divisible by 4. So what it actually is 3, 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, synth. So it comes in on what would be beat 4. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's too quick to give that up. But that is the kind of first check I do with something like this. And this person probably like, if it was in 4/4, we'd probably hear it. So I think there's something else. So my guess, I have two possibilities for what this might be. One is that it could be rhythmic but not metric. So that would mean that there's this clear driving beat, there's stuff happening, but there isn't some sort of repeating thing. and the idea of like what counts as like it being metric. So, if it's metric, the kind of the most conservative definition of that would be that it's some sort of repeating uh, structure of beats. So we don't get that, but there are some cool arguments about that meter can be doesn't have to necessarily be repeating. And there's plenty of metal where I think there's a clear idea of meter, but it's not repeating. Like in all those examples where you have like 4/4, 9/8, 4/4, 11/8, or whatever. So you have these alternating meters, is what it's called. So yeah, but if there was actually no repetition, if the drummer is just kind of like improvising these snare hits and there's not some sort of background structure and it's all kind of free form, that would be one possibility. The other possibility would be that this could be some sort of larger alternating meter thing. So there is actually a pattern, and we just need to figure it out. So I'm going to do a little bit of marking up on this transcribe file, as I generally do. I'm taking it a little slower just to make things as easy as possible. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it a new meter each time we get a snare hit. So we'll start with a new meter, of course. So there's our first one. And then we get this kind of cluster. Here, let's add the beats in. Yeah, already this is kind of tricky. If you hear any weird noises, it's my radiator. But because it's like, it seems kind of silly to have a measure of like, what is this, 6, 7, and then have a measure, or have a snare hit measure that lasts for just one beat. So I think I'm going to, let's just get all the snare hits marked up for a sec. This will be a little tedious. I'll fast forward it. Yeah, maybe actually the better way would be, I think it's going to get visually kind of cluttered if I try and do it in here, so I'm just going to actually transcribe right off the bat. I'm not going to worry about all the cymbals and stuff. We're just worrying about the snare pretty much, and I'll fill in the rest with kicks. And I won't worry about time signature right off the bat. We'll add that in once we have more of an idea, maybe. Yeah, so 6 beats of that, and kick or snare. Wait. Oh, I should call these 16th notes. So here, let's put it in 4/4 just to visually help with this, and then we'll change all this stuff later. And I would apologize for like changing my mind 4 times already in the first couple minutes, but that's how transcribing works. Especially the more you do, the more you kind of develop a different set of strategies you can use to make things as easy for yourself as possible, given the what you're working with. So I think this will be maybe the most flexible option. So we have and if I were doing this just not making a video, I'd spend a lot more time listening, but I'm trying that doesn't translate very well to these videos, so I'm trying to like spell out stuff a little more, be a little more methodical and visual about it so you can see what's going on. And then the synth starts here. I'm not gonna worry about pitch because we'll have plenty to talk about with rhythm. So the question is, do any patterns start to show up in this? And the answer so far is not really, right? These two measures are pretty much the same. Yeah, so I think that's a sign that 4/4 is not working, but it doesn't necessarily tell us if another meter will work or not. Let's get just a little more and see if we can, if anything jumps out of this. We might, we might not have gone long enough for stuff to actually repeat. Okay, well there's 4 more measures. Let's see what's going on. So the other thing we can do is attack point analysis. So, and this can help find patterns. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to say 1 because there's 1 beat before the next snare hit, and I'm not worrying about whether it's a double stroke or a triple stroke or whatever on the snare each time. And this is also 1, and this, because there's a while until the next one, 1, 2, 3. So this one is going to be 3. There, yes, there's a snare hit here. Okay, so I don't know. We'll worry about this first little stretch in a little bit, but we have this 1 1 3 1 3, and some more stuff. Then 1 1 3 1 3. That doesn't match up. Let me get a little more. It's like this is feeling a little bit Catch 33E, where there's it's like close to patterns, but I'm afraid that there might that might be the best we can say, is that it's like there's kind of patterns, which is actually like a really kind of cool way to write music, I think. Uh, 1 1 something else. Yeah, so I'm thinking that we are not going to find something in this. And I mean, like, it is Toby Driver, and if there's anyone who's going to write something that would be longer and more involved than this, it would be him. But I think it seems unlikely to me that there is a larger repeating structure. So whether that means that this was written out like this and a drummer was sight reading it, or a drummer was just improvising, and kind of adding these accents. So like there are a few spots where it seems like we get like this 1-1-3 thing keeps coming up where it's da 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 2 3 da. That comes up a few times, but you know, like not enough that I think that it is going to keep coming. I mean, just because I'm obsessed with this sort of thing, let me do another measure just to see. So, yeah, let's, there are a couple other things to think about though. One of them is what the synth is doing. So when that's changing, I'll bring it back up to full speed. So the synth starts here. Let's listen for when those pitches change. Kind of gradually somewhere in here. Maybe back down to here. Here. So I don't think these are changing. I don't think they're changing after regular repeating amounts of time. So I mean, pitch-wise, it's like it's jumping around between. So kind of this like E, F, G cluster, and the bass is moving between E and F, and the higher layer is going between E and G, at least for this much. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure these are not changing after in a way that would suggest another layer of the rhythm. So it's like here, maybe I'll put one down here, or it's actually kind of starting here, and that keeps going. Here, bass changes. Here. And kind of gets back down to E here. Yeah, that changes up here. And then everything kind of shifts to F around here, but that is not, it's not really changing periodically, right? It's like kind of, if we're sticking to the 4/4 thing, it's like 5.5 measures for this, and then 3.5 for this, to something else. So I think, at least, I think I've satisfied my curiosity that if there is some sort of underlying pattern here, it's going to be much bigger than I'm going to be able to catch in this video. Let me just scroll ahead to the part that was asked about specifically. It's kind of the same sort of stuff for a while, but let's see if there's anything specifically different about this part. Yeah. I think I'm gonna just say this is the effect is kind of the same, right? It's rhythm without meter, um, and maybe you can think of a couple parallels to this, but my guess is that this was recorded in this kind of more freely improvisational style, where there's a rigid beat that the drummer is sticking to. Everything else is kind of floating, the vocals, the synth, and the drummer is kind of increasing activity at a certain point. So like this part, there's kind of chunk where it's a lot busier, there's a lot more snare hits, and then backing off in some spots. So it's kind of I would guess that this was composed not to have a specific metric structure, but a more like waves of energy, waves of texture, and that's what's going on. It reminds me a little bit of this. This is famous Ornette Coleman album, first track on The Shape of Jazz to Come. So this it sounds like there is meter and rhythm, but really the drums aren't really connected to what the horns are doing, and the bass is kind of just like going in jazz. This is called time without changes. So without time without chord changes. So even there are though there are different like I think that's what it was called. I'm just trying to remember back to when I was much more in the jazz world. But yeah, there's like the bass and the drums are just kind of like almost giving the illusion of playing this kind of bebop style, and the horns are just kind of coordinating with each other, but there's not like set amounts of time between anything that's happening, which is it's a cool kind of disorienting thing. So here's that thing I'm talking about. So there's a clear beat. And there's a clear, like really catchy melody. But the metric aspects of it are undefined. They're improvised, even though it kind of sounds like there's this traditional metric structure. Yeah, cool, really cool example. And definitely check out this Ornette Coleman album, because he did a lot of this, and this was kind of a big thing in jazz. And I wouldn't be surprised if Toby Driver is listening to him. I would be surprised if he's not, or he wasn't at some point. Yeah, so there we go. That's first one. All right, second one. I'm just going in the order that I got them, and I think this will be in order of. It'll make it so the last one will be a little quicker to talk about, hopefully. But this one is from the Vertebra Atlantis album, one of those many very cool dissonant death metal albums that came out last year. And one of the guitarists actually commented on one of my videos, which I loved. Thank you to this band for a really sick album, which was in my also in my top albums from last year. So this is a question about harmony, and it is specifically about this section 147. Well, so let's listen from here. So we got this kind of cleaner intro. Alright, this seems like something I'm just going to transcribe before I talk about it. Nice clear notes, good, nice clear repeating structure. So I will do that. So let's get meter first. So we got kind of like 4 subphrases here, or 4 similar repetitions of this riff. I'm not, as usual when I do this stuff, I'm not worrying about tabs, I'm just worrying about notes. Question suggested. So this is with A at the top. Okay, so that's, just getting the chords down. If you're doing harmony, it helps to be a little specific. So overall, we have this very typical kind of A, B, A, C type of deal. So we have, that's the phrase structure, this repeating thing. First time through, we get one ending. Second time through, we get another ending, slightly different. Third time through, we get roughly the same as the first ending, except that now this is a chord, different notes. Maybe we can say all these endings are different, actually. And last time through, we get a little different ending. So I think this is kind of broadly tonal. We have kind of D minor, or B flat minor. And we get this first augmented chord. And then this kind of wandering thing. And kind of going back to the phrase structure, we think of this as like maybe antecedent is this to this, and then we have this kind of consequent thing, this answer thing, call, response, question, answer. And this first thing is kind of like B flat minor, and then so 1 and then 5. So this is the kind of common thing. I talked about this in my Death Heaven video recently, actually, where you have a augmented chord on the relative major of a minor chord. It acts as the 5 because it has the leading tone, right? This A that wants to go back to B flat. So we have 1 and then 5, because this shares most of the notes of F major, which would be the, so. And then, and this, I don't know, maybe it resolves, kind of, that's a little resolution, but it's kind of more this meandering thing. So kind of octatonic half, whole half scale, the diminished scale. It's not the one that you'd expect that would be the dominant of this. So if it were that, it would be the one starting on F, and instead this one is the one that starts on G flat. But similar kind of like escape dissonance maybe. Then we get same thing again. And then this same thing again. C, whole tone fragment, again kind of like parallel worlds. Maybe that's the way to think of this. Is like first half of each of these phrases is kind of tonal, and then this augmented chord opens like a portal away from tonal harmony into these parallel worlds, because like this, well, I guess this works in this tonal framework, or no, it doesn't. So like this puts us in B flat whole tone E world, which is very different from B flat minor. Because the whole tone version has the major third, the D natural, as opposed to that. So again, kind of different world, and same thing here. And then different world thing is kind of like magnified here at the end, where we have these, well, actually, maybe this is where it maybe comes around back to being more tonal. So we have tonal, B flat minor, substitute for 5, and then we get this thing here where there is there are I think these parallel augmented chords underneath it, I think. But this is again kind of an outside of that world. And then we get this D major chord going to an augmented chord, or no, sorry, D major. And then again, maybe similar kind of thing where the second half of this is in a different world, kind of moves away from that B flat minor anchor, and it's, you know, anytime you're kind of keep coming back to this B flat minor, no matter what else happens, it's probably going to start to sound like it's preparing that B flat minor. So all of these major thirds, all these dissonances, probably start to feel like they're leading back to B flat minor, no matter what they are. This one, it reminds me a bit of this thing where you have like super typical in all sorts of music, jazz, rock, whatever, where you have flat six going back down to 5, flat 6, 5, 1, and the difference here is that we have the 5 chord, or the chord a half step above the major chord, a half step above the relative major. So D major going to this 5 substitute, the D flat augmented, and then going back. So it's kind of a cool little harmonic thing. Yeah, again, kind of like maybe the takeaway from this is this idea that you can contrast these different types of harmonic worlds, and if you do it cyclically and within this kind of regular phrase structure, it's probably you can kind of make anything sound like a dominant, even if it's like not what the jazz police would say you should play over this stuff, or whatever. But this is dissonant death metal, so maybe that's kind of the point. Although I think with dissonant death metal, it's more about the sound of certain intervals. It's about playing augmented chords and minor seconds and diminished triads than and like even if that happens in a kind of tonal context, it doesn't necessarily change the feeling of dissonance that people take away from it. Yeah, so that's that one. Another very cool album from last year. The video stopped at some point. Hopefully I didn't miss too much. Then tempo increases again. Yet another kind of these westerny riffs. That's what I keep calling them. gotta still be synth, even though it sounds kind of like horn stuff, kind of dissonant circus music stuff. You kind of you hear a lot where Between the Buried and Me got some stuff from. Music box thing. Kind of wilder harmony stuff, more outside. It's cool, like guitar and synth. Because like it's obviously composed if they're doubling it like this. And this is maybe the same same riff as we had before. These are all kind of like similar riffs, these Western ones. Kind of more flashy guitar stuff. Little metric modulation going into the return, harmonic resolution, and then formal resolution with the return of this thing. Yeah, so in general, I mean, like a lot of these Dream Theater sections, there is some sort of something a little bit they developed over time, these conventions about who about how these sections work, and kind of a general gist. So like the details are gonna be a little different in each one, and there isn't necessarily a form. The tradition of looking at form like this is like kind of like boxes of defaults that you go into and you play with. It's called Formenlehre, after the German kind of German compound word, and the they have this thing of so anyways, instead of thinking of it as like specific sections that can show up, it's generally, I think of it more as like a set of strategies that they use. So one of them, which is pretty typical in this, is these like genre excursions going into different areas. So it goes kind of into this like cowboy music, I think of it as, and then there's that kind of like carnival music, where stuff gets pretty dissonant, and then these different timbres, different tones in all the solo instruments. Everyone's taking solos, they're kind of trading. Riffs are changing for each solo, but in this one, all the riffs are kind of in the same kind of, have the same kind of character. And then also there's like this intensification, right? So the tempo changed, it got faster, I think twice within here. And at the end, the last one you get is like the really showy, really fast 30-second note, John Petrucci shred stuff. And yeah, so there's kind of like this sense of momentum and the sense that it's all leading back to the return of this familiar thing that we heard 5 minutes ago on the song. Yeah, I hope that's satisfactory. And yeah, if you're interested in more of this stuff, I have that Between the Buried and Me video, which gets a little into this sort of thing. And also like actually for this, which I guess the person who asked this is by definition on my Patreon. I posted that conference proposal on my Patreon last week, that has to do with this. And in that I look at Octavarium, which is an even longer Dream Theater song, but it's kind of the structure is kind of the same. It goes, it gets faster and faster. You keep trading solos between keyboards and guitars, and there are kind of all these different genre worlds that show up. So yeah, that is Rapid Fire Riffs 4. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my patrons for your support and for always giving me great riffs to talk about. If you are new to my Patreon, I will be posting a new call for riffs very soon, and I'll try and get more back to a regular schedule of making these videos once a month. Yeah, ta-ta for now.